Hello, hello. This is Yuri with Moving Sales Professionals and Let's Talk Moving podcast. And with me today, I have Nick Friedman, a co-founder and owner of College Hunks Hauling Junk, with over 20 years of moving industry experience and over 200 franchise locations. How you doing today, Nick?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining. So, Nick, everybody, of course, wants to know you're being pretty successful. Your name is out there, franchise locations, all that stuff. Everything is growing, everything is sticking. So, how did you get into the moving industry? What got you started?
Yeah, probably like most people, I wasn't growing up thinking I want to be in the moving business when I grow up. And I've been brought up to follow the more traditional career path. You work hard in school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job. And so we were heading into our senior year of college and we were home for summer vacation. My best friend from high school, his mom had a beat up cargo van from her furniture store. And she said, why don't you guys go do something with the van this summer? You could move people's furniture, you could haul people's junk away. Then she paused and looked us up and down. And she goes, "You guys could be like college hunks who haul junk." And we just kind of laughed about it at first and made some flyers with that, printed out on it, that name. And the phone started ringing. And I had a lot of fun doing it. It was kind of being able to explore the community, meet different people. So really the light bulb moment went for me like, hey, this could actually be something we pursue. And I know a lot of people do stuff like that during a summer gig, whether it's painting or landscaping or mowing lawns or moving furniture. But we decided to just kind of keep it moving, keep it going, and ended up launching the business full time after college. And I always tell the story, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that are in the industry. When we started, we were doing all the work ourselves, driving the trucks, answering the phones, moving the furniture. And we went and we bought a 1-800 number to try to make ourselves look bigger. And we put it on the back of the truck. It was still routed to our cell phones. And you can appreciate this because you got to call sales centers. But I'd be in the truck answering the phone, pretending like I was in the office. And people would call to complain about driving. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, we'll fire those guys when they get back to the office." So fired ourselves 3 or 4 times, and then I describe ourselves as a 20-year overnight success. We finally figured out how to work on the business, not just in it. We learned about franchising, which was a whole nother ball game. Here we are.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And now for a word from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com today to learn more.
Other than obviously the experience that you have, and I always talk about my experience too, because mine also started with a joke. So that seems to be the case. It's either that you end up in the business accidentally, so to speak, right? Or you're like a mover with pedigree, with third generation and whatever. So it's one or the other most of the time, it seems, right? Now, what did you do differently with College Hunks that gave you success the company enjoys today?
Well, I think what we did, obviously, the name stood out, right? The name
Right.
stood out that we went and we got bright orange and green trucks, and we would park them in different, we would park our one truck in different locations around the city. And when we would tell people what we were doing, they were like, "Oh, I think I've seen that truck. You've got a bunch of trucks around town, don't you?" And we were like, "Oh, actually, in the back of our mind, we were like, we really only have one." So there was a book that we had read called The Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And he talks about, you got to stand out or be different or remarkable. And, if you're driving down a country road and you see a bunch of brown cows, you'll keep driving because you've seen it before. But if there's a purple cow out in the field, you're going to pull over and be like, oh, that's different. That's unique. You're going to
Hmm.
tell your friends and neighbors about it. In today's day and age, you'll put it on social media. So we felt like our name and our colors was a little bit of what I'll call a pattern interrupt from the traditional, movers that were out there back then. What we also had to realize was it couldn't just be a catchy name or a bright brand, but we also had to back it up with quality service. And I know that's very cliche to say, but we were very intentional about the company culture for our team members and then the experience for our clients. And we believe we've created kind of a purpose-driven, values-based organization that is, sort of committed to making an impact in the communities that we service. And so that's been kind of the secret sauce that's, I think, galvanized our team members, our franchise owners, and allowed the brand permeate through the consumer psyche. And we've had a couple big breaks. We were on the first episode of Shark Tank, episode one,
Right.
season one. So that was actually a lot of fun. And we've had some other fun with, mainstream media attention, which helps, elevate the brand awareness. It was never one thing, but it was sort of a accumulation of things that I think allowed us to get here. And then the other thing is just a lot of patience and persistence. Then business and life isn't linear. There's a lot of ups and downs, but if you kind of keep
Sure.
chugging along, getting better, there's going to be a compound effect and momentum built over time.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I think you got to stay consistent, especially in certain things like quality and brand and company culture are extremely important, and that's something that I talk about all the time on this podcast. It's something that I certainly try to do in my own business. We don't grow as fast as some places would consider, but we're consistent. So we stay steady. I think that's one of the important things that is underrated in a lot of cases.
Yeah, look, as an entrepreneur, I suffer from a little bit of ADD, or I should say a lot of bit of ADD, which I say stands for all damn day. You can't turn it off. And
Right.
then I suffer from, kind of an urgency of effort, impatience a lot of the times.
Mhm.
And that can be a good thing because you want to keep pressing, you want to keep pushing, and you want to keep driving forward. But to your point, you got to be patient and meticulous about the consistency of the execution. Because if you just kind of go gangbusters, you're going to be like a bull in the china shop,
Mhm.
and the wheels are going to literally fall off the engine.
Does your company need more creative marketing and ad campaigns to improve traffic and organic leads? Well, Moving Sales Professionals has a solution for you. We have partnered with social media marketing agency that has over 300 million views on their ads and videos across social media, and they have generated over $35 million for their clients over the last 10 years alone. Their services include content creation, social media ads, pay-per-click campaigns, website and funnel development, Google Ads, email marketing campaigns, lead generation, and much, much more. For limited time only, they have discounted rates for their services. Sign up for a free consultation call with us via our Calendly link on our website or below this video.
And so I think it is a balance. I applaud entrepreneurs that have high ambition and want to grow quickly, but no overnight success happens overnight. It's you got to be pragmatic and calculated about how you grow because when we've tried to shortcut the success,
Mhm.
whether it's trying to add a new service line or trying to tackle long distance when we weren't ready or trying to tackle a higher end home and we weren't didn't have the systems in place. Things can go really sideways, especially in this industry, and then that can ruin the reputation. And as a franchise brand, where we've got 200 independent owners representing this brand across the country, that consistency matters that much more, right? If you go to a McDonald's, your expectation is going to be a consistent experience. And if there's one where the bathrooms are dirty or the menu is
Right.
stale, taste stale, that you're going to think something was certainly wrong with that store, but it is going to ultimately reflect poorly on the brand as well. And so you're absolutely right. I think that consistency of execution, it's not sexy, it's boring and slow,
Yeah.
but it matters and it can be a differentiator. I think everybody's always like, oh, well, what's your, how do you differentiate and what's your 10x, moonshot
Right.
idea? You don't have to be the next Elon, mission to Mars expedition or
Right.
disruptor. It's great to try, but at the same time, if you ask Elon what differentiates Tesla from all the other electric cars, he says execution. He says we just out execute everybody. They know our formula of how we build the cars. We just do it better and more effectively than they do. And there's something to be said about execution and consistency.
Well, it's that part. It's also part of advertising. It's also things like that that make you unique. So I talk about that all the time, like what you were talking about with the purple car, and or in your case, green and orange trucks, or for example, I've mentioned this multiple times, the fact like piece of cake, putting the name of the company on the top of the truck so you can see it from a skyscraper.
Yeah.
There's so many genius ideas out there. I mean, there was a company in Boston that I talked to who is, it's pink zebra. That's something you don't see very often, so that's something that certainly draws your attention, and in a lot of cases, like, oh, well, that's new. Well, that looks cool. Okay, let's try that because it is new, because it is different. So those things are attractive, especially in today's world where we're living with a lot of social media and everything else. I'm certainly a big proponent of that. So certainly we're doing this this podcast for that purpose, if nothing else, to get our name out there for people to have the awareness of what we're talking about. And having guys like you on the podcast obviously helps with doing whatever we're doing. But I think part of the issue is that a lot of people try to take or find those shortcuts. And I think that in any business, while there are creative ways to get to a certain point a little faster than if you took the old and traditional, right? Certain things in any industry stay the same and stay true. And it's when you try to do certain things too fast, it affects your quality, it affects how you do things, and it affects how your potential clients view your company and view what you're trying to do.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%.
Now, is there anything unique that you're doing today? What's in the works? Is there anything?
Nothing new. I mean, look, I know, and I know a lot of moving companies are kind of dabbling or even, jumping into the junk removal space.
Hmm.
We actually started as a junk removal company and then transitioned to add moving during the economic downturn just because we felt like junk removal as a standalone wasn't enough to really scale. So, we're continuing to operate both service lines, moving and junk removal, two different beasts. And I think some of the moving companies that are kind of, adding junk. I know that Two Men and Trucks doing it,
Right.
and some others. They're going to see some challenges, in nuances in the two different businesses. I think for us, we're actually, we haven't done a lot of long distance up to this point, and that's something that we do feel now we've got a network of 200 locations. We have a
Yeah,
strong capability of doing. Same thing with
absolutely.
some of our national relationships. We can, partner with large organizations and be a reliable service provider for some of their transportation needs.
Sure.
And so those are, I think, the main things. We're not trying to, get too crazy. Just keep building and keep growing, keep supporting our franchise owners to help them be successful. Because if they're successful, then the brand succeeds.
Yeah, so I certainly agree with having that many locations, that many franchises. Long distance would be something that I would very much focus on because you're able to have crews to load, crews to unload. You're able to connect. You have one truck that's coming to one city, unloading there, picking up something from that city, going to the next location or whatever. So there's definitely that's one of the things that smaller companies always have issues with because they're looking to work with carriers or they're looking to work with big van lines or whatever the case is. When you have that many locations within your franchise, you can definitely have that running a lot smoother, I would think. I mean, certainly it's going to require work. Now, one thing that I did want to ask you, because I know I've run into this when quoting clients or when people are looking for moving, when they mention to me, for example, when they mention Two Men in a Truck, and in my experience looking up those companies and stuff like that, I've seen multiple times when they have specific locations that have bad ratings, bad reviews versus other locations, right? So that would be one of the things that um, I would imagine with a franchise that could be an issue. So as a franchise, what do you guys do to make sure that every individual owner keeps their end of the bargain to stay part of the brand and the quality and make sure that their reviews and their ratings and their Better Business Bureau, for example, is consistent with your overall strategy and your overall picture that you're trying to build.
Yeah, it's not easy. We set the expectation, set the standard, and set our core values up front before we bring somebody into our franchise system, just as you would, with your employee selection. We
Sure.
try to be very discerning and disciplined as to who we bring in to our franchise owner selection. Then it goes into training, just as you would train your key people that you're sending into people's homes. We've got to train our
Mhm.
franchise owners on what's expected to represent the brand, and it's sort of one extra layer of complexity because we're teaching them how to teach their employees. We're teaching them how to hire and train their people and to deliver and carry on that brand legacy and brand reputation. And then so we also have, I would say, the carrot and stick component as well. We celebrate and recognize and reward the franchise owners that are, really upholding the brand in a positive light and representing the core values and delivering on those core values. And then, we do have some protocol in place to step in, remedy client situations, and in some cases even help exit a franchise owner from our system if they're not able to consistently deliver on our brand expectations and our brand promise.
Okay, so of course I have to play devil's advocate. So how bad do you have to be to get kicked out of the franchise?
you've got to be consistently bad and you got to be non-responsive to coaching, support, performance reviews, and so forth. And if you don't show any level of care, effort, or improvement, then it's, it doesn't have to be punitive, but it's got to be, what we like to say, a graceful transition out
Uh,
of the business, because it's just not for them. And some of it's,
right.
not
So
because
make
they're
sure it's not blatant disregard for your core values and what have you, right?
exactly. And we have direct conversations. We're big on direct conversations in our
Yep.
organization, whether it's employment or franchise or otherwise. Let's not talk to let's talk to people, not about them. So if there's a concern or there's reviews that are coming through, they're starting to show a trend. We got to pick up the phone or even fly out and meet with these guys and see if we can turn it around. Actually, Omar and I, my business partner and I, we were on an episode of Undercover Boss not too long ago. If you're
Okay.
familiar with that show, and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
went
yeah, yeah, yeah.
over
I've seen
some
it
of our
before.
different franchise systems. And we did discover, a situation where actually one of our franchise owners was responding publicly on, review sites to upset customers and really kind of like almost like arguing with customers online, publicly about their, reviews. And we all know that the customer isn't always right,
Right.
but the
We do
customer
know
is
that.
always the customer. And so even if they're wrong, you don't make them look like a jerk, or even you don't act like a jerk, because then people don't know who's the fool if you're both arguing, especially in public. So we had to have and that came out on national television. So we, thankfully it had a nice arc to the story, a good resolution, a good turnaround, success. And I think, ultimately held the brand in a positive light with what was able to come from that experience. But that was an example of kind of what you were asking about that ended up getting showcased on national TV. So we couldn't
Right.
hide from that one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like usually if I'm working with any of my clients, if there's ever a complaint, we do have a service, additional service that's available that takes care of that for our clients. We don't have it really as a standalone claims per se, but if there's like a review situation or BBB situation and the company wants us to get involved in that, I'm usually the one that writes those reviews personally. I'm very good at basically going point by point answering their reviews. You got to be respectful. You got to
Yeah.
be but at the same time, you got to understand it's not necessarily a look, people are reading, always reading how a company responds to a situation. Okay. And there's going to be a situation where you're not going to make the person happy unless they get a free move and $1,000 on top or
Right.
whatever, right? There's going to be people like that. And you can't please those people. And at the same time, you're not in business to lose money. And you got to respectfully respond to everything. And because here's the thing. People that are looking to step in money, they're reading those reviews. And they're reading reviews if you're being respectful, even if you're not giving that person what they want per se, if you're being respectful, if you're explaining to the situation, you're saying, well, this is what happened. This is what we did. This is what you did. This is how we attracted. This is what we offered you. And frankly, I'm sorry, but we can't offer you anymore because A, B, C, D. And then they still yelling and screaming and demanding. People reading those reviews are going to say, well, this company is clearly offering well, they're clearly being respectful, well, they're cleaning whatever. Yeah, there's a little sense of humor there because you're
Right.
like, okay, well, you cannot let the crew use the bathroom while they're at the job site. You can't do that just because you don't want them using your bathroom. They're working there for 12 hours. You can't tell them not to use the bathroom
Right.
and that's happened. You know
Yeah.
that. I've known that,
Absolutely.
right? So people reading stuff like that, they're like they will read it and then they go like, man, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not going to be a negative on you. It's going to be negative on the person that wrote that review.
That's right.
But you
That's
still
right.
gotta in the interaction with that customer, you still got to be respectful. You still have to be very, very on point and as professional. There can't be any profanity. There can't be anything. It's got to be very, very by the book, by the point, by the policy. When in doubt, just go back to company policy.
Yeah. There was we toured the Zappos headquarters. I don't know if you're familiar with that brand that Amazon
Yeah.
bought them. It was like a online retailer. They're known
Yeah,
for
they're selling
customer
shoes,
service.
right?
Yeah, they're known for customer service and just, they call it, delivering happiness. And I saw they use an acronym for all their what they call service recovery. The acronym is LARS: listen, apologize, repeat, and solve. And the example they said is like, hey, listen, apologize, and repeat. That's a science. Solving is a bit of an art form. You
Right.
listen to what they're upset about, you apologize, not that you necessarily did something wrong, but you repeat back to them what they're upset about as part of the apology, which is showing a level of compassion and empathy, which is really what people are looking for. And then solving could be just simply stating or restating, what we're able to do, maybe, discount a future move, maybe, edible arrangements
Right.
basket, maybe, a small discount, what have you, or small rebate, but you can't get taken advantage of, and you got to be mindful and protect the house and protect the business as well.
Yeah, I agree with that absolutely. You gotta, once again, we know in this industry specifically that there's people that are looking for discounts. We know there's people that will take advantage of any scratch they had 20 years ago to try to get a discount on you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We know that. We deal with that. That's part of the industry. But it's all about, once again, your movers come, they take a look at things that they're looking at and they see that there's some scratches and point out
Yeah.
that there are some scratches there before they lifted a single item. There's a lot of things that you got to do as a policy, as part of the process when you come to the move, and that comes with foreman training and what have you. Same thing goes without uh, addressing things when you're talking to customers on the phone, things that you disclose, things that you know you want to make sure you trot the company line while at the same time accommodating the customer.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, I feel like I need to go on a crusade with everybody in the industry to help educate the consumer that moving is a skilled trade. It is a skilled labor. I think there's sort of like this, almost assumption or perspective that it's just sort of these like bumbling, unskilled people that, should work for the least amount of money to come move and do probably one of the hardest jobs ever. Like you think of any other trade, whether it's HVAC or plumbing, yes, those are extremely technical and extremely difficult, but you're not face to face with the client for 12 hours straight or like walking past the client for 12 hours straight, handling all their personal belongings and some of those other circumstances, and you're not walking a different stairway or a different hallway or handling a different piece of furniture like like the moving industry does. And so for whatever reason the moving industry has gotten a bad rap, and sort of very low value price expectations, a willingness to pay from the consumer, which makes it kind of challenging. I mean, that's why it's an uphill battle. That's why, ones that succeed, you got to be good at all the different X's and O's of the business in order to make it work, protecting your margin, performing the move effectively, overcoming issues and complaints, or claims, and generating more business and converting more business and instilling that trust. So it's the whole arc for sure. And
Yeah.
getting paid what you're worth, really, at the end of the day.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. Now, I mean, that kind of fills the question I was going to ask you next about what would you recommend to new companies starting out? So obviously, you want to start off correctly and build the policies and processes from day one,
Yeah.
such as, when do the movers call the first customer? When do they call the second customer? When do they let the office know that the job
Yeah.
that they're doing in the morning is bigger and they won't make the second job or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be?
Well, look, there's way more information today on how to start any business, but moving business, no different than there was 20 years ago. Whether it's
Absolutely.
the internet, whether it's training platforms, whether it's industry associations and groups. I had to kind of do it the old-fashioned way and buy like Moving for Dummies or something like that at the bookstore. But so having the information is step one. But again, we all know, like I think it was a Tony Robbins quote who said, if all we needed was information, we'd all be billionaires. We'd all have six-pack abs, and we'd all, not be in debt or whatever, the case. Because like the information is there. So I think having the understanding of like what good looks like, what great looks like is step one. And then yeah, step two is just putting the pieces in place for the process, making mistakes and learning quickly from them, and having incremental step changes along the way. People will see results, but you're gonna like I remember some of the first jobs we went to, we underbid or misquoted, and we're scratching our head at the end of the day like what the heck just happened, or we broke a piece of furniture because we had no idea how to move it. Eventually the systems come together and good people come together, and it becomes
And
something that's
experience catches up.
exactly.
Yep, I agree. Well, Nick, it's a pleasure, and once again, I really appreciate you coming on with us and talking to us. I'm sure everybody enjoyed this, and we'll have some links available for Nick's stuff. So if there's any links you want me to list, Nick, please let me know. And
Yeah.
once again, thank you very much for joining us. And like I'll always say, the world moves on its own, so let the professionals move yours for you. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon.